Under Committee Rule 9, we will now question the witnesses under the 5-minute rule. I will recognize myself for 5 minutes. Mrs. Carey, with your background in both the private sector and the NLRB, you have a unique perspective on the timeline of labor negotiations. What are the primary factors and complexities that influence the time it takes for an employer and a union to reach their first contract?
Thank you for the question. Every case is different, every company is different, every bargaining unit is different. So I don't think there is one single factor that would influence the time it takes for a collective bargaining agreement to be reached in an initial contract. From my perspective and from my experience, I can tell you that there are many things that come into play after a unit is certified or voluntarily recognized by an employer. That includes extensive requests for information relating to the specific employer, the industry, the business, the wants, the needs of the employees in the union. Those take time to respond to, and we need to provide times for the union also to put together their proposals. So in terms of complexity, every single bargaining unit and every negotiation is going to be different.
What are the most effective strategies or frameworks for ensuring that the statutory obligation to bargain in good faith leads to a timely, finalized first contract?
I mean, from a practical standpoint, it means parties talking to each other and collaborating with each other and answering each other's requests for information, which can go both ways. It also requires that, when a charge is brought to us alleging that there is some type of bad faith bargaining, that there's surface bargaining, that there's regressive bargaining, that we have the capability in terms of staffing and we have the runway to be able to investigate those cases in a quicker manner so that we can get results. The outcome of an unfair labor practice case and alleging bad faith bargaining can have an impact on many decisions in bargaining, but also can result in things, in the event that there's a strike, depending on whether there's an unfair labor practice or not involved, can also impact whether or not replacements can be used and what types of replacements. So the ability of the General Counsel's office and our field office to be able to make a timely decision on any unfair labor practices alleging bad faith bargaining is crucial.
Thank you. Chairman Murphy, the board has a tradition of requiring 3 votes to reverse precedent, and you have signaled your intention to keep this tradition. Could you elaborate on this tradition?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. As you mentioned, it's a long-standing tradition. I have checked, and I've found no aberration from that particular tradition since the passage of the Taft-Hartley amendments in 1947. It is not statutorily required, but I think implicit in the expansion of the board from 3 to 5 members, which permitted the board to decide routine cases on a 3-member basis, a sub-panel basis as we call it. Implicit in that is the notion that the board as a body of a whole should overrule precedent, and that body of a whole would be 3 members regardless of whether there are actually 5 sitting members.
Thank you. Chairman Murphy, since the time the board reached a quorum this year, you have been making steady progress in processing cases. In the past 5 months alone, the board has issued over 200 decisions. There have been prior years when the board only issued 240 decisions. Will you talk about the urgency of confirming additional board members and what is the cost in concrete terms of continued vacancies to the workers and employers awaiting resolution of labor disputes?
Again, as I made a reference to the 5-member system where there would be sub-panels where only 3 board members would be disposing of routine cases and the other 1 or 2 board members would be simply noting off at the end unless they wish to participate. So an additional board member, in this case nominee Jim Macy, it would be advantageous to have him present, understanding that any board member, including myself who arrives at the board, does have to go through a learning curve and to get acquainted with staff, but the sooner the better that we get reinforcements, if you will, the better I think we will be able to process the additional, still much too high backlog that we have to confirm with.
Good. Well, thank you for your work. And now I will call